Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's podcast of Intentional Living with myself, Marty Keller, and my friend and colleague, Dan Gutierrez. We Last week we began to talk about the actual accountability tree itself, and but before we get into that, I just remind us that we're using a focus that the Greek philosopher Socrates offered us to consider. He said, "The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new." And it's our contention that the accountability tree practice is a practical way to make that happen. How do I stop focusing on the old, and how do I use the old to create what I want now with the new? And so last week we talked about the accountability tree. We reviewed the fact that there's a very specific process that we undergo. It basically has two central elements. The first one is, how am I feeling? How do I account? We talked last week about accountability, where we got that word. So am I able to account for how I'm feeling, how I'm thinking, what's going on with me, particularly in a moment of I'm experiencing something that my conscious mind goes, I don't want to be doing this, and yet I'm doing it anyway. I feel stuck. And then once I can identify that, I can now say, what do I want? Do I want this, whatever it is I've discovered about myself, or do I want something else?
Right.
And you even said that I can listen to my body to get an answer to that question. I don't even necessarily have to come up with a thought to have the answer, because my body knows what it wants.
Right.
And so part of the value of the accountability process for me is that not only does it put me in my body much more frequently, but it then allows me to access the wisdom that's been living there all along and I was completely unaware of.
Right.
So many of us treat our bodies, as our colleague Rodney says, as a way to carry our head around. But no, there's something else going on.
Yeah. There is no separation between my head and my body. They're linked together, and what for me the accountability practice gives me is a way to join the two.
Exactly.
And have my emotional wisdom aligned with my cognitive abilities to create the life that I want to. And rather than have them seen as fighting each other, they're both on the same team. They just haven't had the translation of the playbook for them to both to work together. They've been opposing each other. They've been hearing stories, and the whole idea that we're separate. The head's different from the body, and it's ludicrous. How can they be separate? They're attached.
Well, they all develop together. I mean, the brain is carbon-based electrochemical magnetic energy, and just like all the other cells of my body. So
yeah. And accountability process here gives me a process to use to reveal information about myself, which I can then use to support myself to create the life that I want. I come to a greater awareness of myself through being accountable for my thoughts, actions, and behaviors. Because if I cannot see what's the only view I have is from the inside out, and a lot of times I can't see my behavior because I am the behavior, and I don't see what other people can see. So this is why a facilitated meeting, somebody who has awareness of the process and knows themselves fairly well, can support you in getting to an awareness of yourself. And I bring that up is because what happens is in a setting where the meeting is facilitated is that I develop for maybe the first time the ability to have somebody mirror me and reflect myself and have that reflection be honored, felt safe, and develop the ability to trust the space so I can be vulnerable rather than hide it, right? So I can get to the truth of what's been stuck in my body, and hence unresolved, and becomes a barrier to leading the life that I want. And that I can't say it enough. That's what the accountability tree does. And a facilitated accountability tree meeting is a necessity. Just like when you're a child, you have a parent, right? And the parent co-regulates you when you're learning as a child.
What do you mean co-regulate?
Well, the parent mirrors back the child, and then the child learns how the mirroring, from the mother, it develops the ability to regulate itself.
Based on what it's being taught, what we're being taught through what mom is doing.
Right.
Got it.
Okay. And then what we do here in the meeting is we basically recreate that modality, is where the facilitator becomes that mirroring and recreates, instead of a traumatic experience possibly, a safe environment. So the person can grow like the child did, have that safe experience to be able to access these vulnerable parts of ourselves without fear of being judged, fear of being ridiculed. So we don't stuff them anymore. We feel safe enough to explore them.
Okay.
And
so
it's been my experience.
So one of the things that we thought we would do is we would actually do an accountability tree practice. Dan will facilitate something that bugged me this weekend of an experience I had. He doesn't know what I'm about to say, so this is how it works. So, can I share something with you that I'd like some help on?
Sure.
So I went down to the Bay Area this weekend, and I saw one of my oldest friends, my friend Steve, who lives in Switzerland, and he's been a friend of mine since I was in high school. And when we were in college, we started writing music together, and we've recorded music, and just somebody that I've really felt close to, even though he lives thousands of miles away, and I don't get to see him that much anymore. I hadn't seen him since our 50th high school reunion 5 years ago. So we communicate occasionally, and in between that 5 years, Steve recorded a CD of some of our music. I think you have a copy of that. And so he showed up in the Bay Area to be participating in a concert of some of his fellow musicians from back when we were all in college in Ann Arbor, University of Michigan. And I felt several different emotions, and one of the emotions, and I had emotion attached with a thought. So the thought was this: the thought was, you're coming all the way from Switzerland, and this is the amount of time I get with you. I get to come over to a concert, and I felt angry, I felt jealous, and so I'm trying to do the accountability practice by myself, and I notice I'm still angry and jealous.
Right.
And then I get there, and I find out that he spent a couple days with another high school buddy of ours, and he stayed at this gentleman and his wife's house. And I'm like, you stayed with these guys, and you didn't even call me and say, let's come on down and get together. So I'm still activated, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Even though I enjoyed seeing my friend and made arrangements to, have more contact. I didn't say any of this to him. It didn't seem appropriate at the time, but I can feel it right here. I'm like, something's going on that probably doesn't have anything to do with this, but
it probably, well, not probably, but the issue is not the issue. So what's your judgment of him?
My judgment is he doesn't care about me.
Okay.
He doesn't care.
Okay.
Or I'm not that important to him.
Okay. So is this the first time you've ever felt that way?
You mean in general, or about him?
About anybody.
It's the first time in a long time.
Okay. So is there a familiar feeling to this?
Yeah, remember what I said in last week's thing about the fist in my
Right.
solar plexus? I'm feeling that right now.
Okay. So,
And it feels like, I just noticed this, Dan. It almost feels like I could feel bile in the back of my throat,
Okay.
like a preliminary to throwing up kind
Okay.
of feeling.
so would you be willing to go to that feeling? Yeah.
Yes, I'm willing.
Okay.
It just makes me sad. I didn't expect that.
Yeah. So what else are you feeling?
I'm feeling a flush in my face right here. Here.
Right.
I feel embarrassed
Okay.
to be even saying this stuff out loud.
Okay.
I feel teary.
Yeah. You're getting there. Just hang in there. It's coming.
I'm not going anywhere.
It's coming. Just think about how you felt when you found out that he spends time with other people and not you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you be willing to consider that your truth is that you don't matter? You're not.
Yeah.
You're not worthy.
I mean, do I do this to myself?
No, I'm just. That's what the feeling's about.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels that's the feeling I get if I believe I've been dismissed or
Okay.
or devalued.
Okay. So what kind of person gets devalued and dismissed?
Somebody devaluable and dismissible.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the college level thing. I want
Yeah.
something. I want some preschool.
You want preschool?
I want some preschool.
Now you're really asking a lot.
I know. That's why I get the big bucks. What kind of person doesn't gets dismissed and devalued?
A piece of shit. Somebody's like worthless.
Getting there.
What do you see?
I see somebody who. I see a little boy. Who doesn't get picked for baseball, or doesn't get picked for any games. It's a sense of rejection.
Yeah. That's, as soon as you said that, I flashed back to not being picked to the last in the
Okay.
pickup baseball games.
So this is an old feeling. This is not a new one.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's go back to the feeling. So, and what's it telling you?
Well, when I concentrate on that and I just asked it to tell me what it wants me to know. It said, you know what I heard? You're okay. You're all right.
All right. So based on what it told you, create the intention to support that.
Okay, what I want is, before I do the intention, I want to say what I want, so I have something to base that on.
I'd like you to consider go with I'm feeling rejected. That's the one that had the most energy.
Yeah. So what I want is to be accepted and to feel the confidence of being accepted. Maybe even safe.
Okay. I was going to say you can't have the acceptance. That requires somebody else.
Right, unless it's me doing my acceptance of me.
Okay.
So I intend to feel confident and at ease.
Okay. Okay.
So what I noticed is, especially when you just smiled, that made me feel warm. I could feel that fist energy kind of dissolving here, and it wasn't dissolving until that happened. So, so thanks.
Okay.
So this is a way that we do the accountability practice. Part of the value for me of doing this is I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm taking a risk, and when we do this in a meeting, any one of us that wants to work on something that's bothering us we're taking a faith walk. I'm taking a faith walk with my friend here, and I'm also taking a faith walk with myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm willing. Now, I've been doing this for many years, so I know the process, and I still find myself stuck, like I felt stuck this weekend. And so I'm willing to continue to do the work, to work the tree, and I hope you noticed that we worked the tree. Dan asked me how I felt. He asked me to go to the place in my body where the feeling was and to sit with it. And what I noticed when you asked me to do that was the feeling shifted a little bit because I started crying, which wasn't there when I first started talking to you. So things start happening that aren't predictable when I allow myself, or we allow ourselves, to just feel.
Right.
So wisdom of the body, information coming up, and then you said, this is what I remember you saying, stick with it. You're almost there, just stick with it. So the instruction is essentially to do my best to stay with a feeling that's
Right.
not comfortable
Right.
to be with, but that's where the gold is.
Right.
And then when you said, this is not a new feeling, this is an old feeling, and you said, I picture a little boy not being picked for the team, or whatever
Right.
it is that you said. It's like, yeah, that's what that was. That's what that is. Still there. So there's still stuff that's not healed yet.
Right.
From those experiences of rejection that I felt as a little kid.
Right. And that's the, like I said, we really don't need to know much about this process at all. You don't need to know about the narrative, right? Because the body is doing the healing. It's just allowing a safe environment and some coaching to stay with it. That's what needs to happen. What we went through is basically what a parent does with a child. If little Marty had come up to his parent and told the same story, rather than maybe or not having the safety and knowing that it's okay to come up and be vulnerable, and there's not going to be the threat of rejection, to actually experience what you're experiencing, be encouraged to experience what you're experiencing, and know that it's okay. That didn't happen.
Right.
And that's what we struggle with as adults, because we never learn to have that happen. Through the accountability practice, what we have here is we have that happening. I'm encouraging you to tell me about your story, how you're feeling,
Right.
and creating a safe spot to have it happen, so you can navigate through it, just like that little boy could have done if he'd been encouraged, and the value of his emotions and his uniqueness, and his inability to understand what was happening and why, could have been coached by someone who knew those things.
Right.
And that didn't happen. That's trauma is not necessarily what happened to you. Trauma is also something that what should have happened didn't. So as adults, we get to learn what it is that we didn't get in childhood to navigate a life where we can start to feel safe with ourselves, so we can be present to our emotions, so I can feel safe in my own skin. When I can feel safe in my own skin, the body takes care of itself. It's not afraid. It's not under threat. It's not activated. It's not pumped with cortisol and adrenaline. You look different sitting there than you did 5 minutes ago. This is the release. This is what can happen in the process, is that internal relationship to self changes. So I come out of fear and anxiety. You know, I don't want to be rejected, to I feel safe. And when you get to that safe part, that's where the body, it starts to heal itself. And it's been my experience is when we get to that point and someone takes a deep breath, that's exactly what the antelope did. He did all the shaking and all the trauma, and what we've done is unlock that trauma and let it complete itself to a greater extent this time.
Right.
So as we move on down the road, this will happen again, and then we can do the same process, or maybe you can do it with yourself to a degree, and then more of this energy gets released. And the more that it gets released, the easier, the lower my shoulders, the tension comes out of my body. And the more that I feel safe, the easier this becomes. And it all stems
Right.
It all stems from the process of feeling safe in the moment, trusting that I'm not gonna steer you wrong. I have your best interest at heart, and you're open to the guidance. And then that's the experience that I'm looking for. That's the transcendence. I'm using my fear and trauma to create the peace that I really wanted, the connection to myself. And through my emotions is how I connect to myself. And then through that ability to connect with myself, now I can use my emotions or others' emotions to connect to them. That's part of being a human being. And I think that's I don't know if it was intended that way, but for me, the accountability process, it gives me all what I just talked about. And the truth is, I want to be safe in my own skin. And once I discovered that through the accountability, being accountable for my behavior, that gives me that, I can't get enough of it.
Right. Yeah, I just want to enjoy life.
Exactly.
And I lived for years and years and years with a little kid whose notion of joy was to create anxiety and hypervigilance, and because if you're always facing rejection, then you're on the lookout for it. And so now, having done this work for the number of years that I have, the kinds of experiences that I shared with you don't come that frequently, and I know that something's going on that if I can't see for myself, I can go get help.
Right.
I can come to you, I can go to a meeting or whatever, because it's like there are still times when I feel baffled by what my experience is, or my story about my experience.
Right. I just can't say it enough. Human beings are designed to be in community. And this is one of the benefits of being in community, because I can see what's going on a heck of a lot easier than you can, because you're on the inside looking out. I'm looking on the outside in, and I can see different things. That's why it's really important that we go to meetings. I experienced my trauma in the presence of another. I'm going to experience healing in the presence of another. That's why we're human beings, and that's part of why we're social beings. That's all been evolution has worked that in, and we've gotten away from that. We live in a culture that doesn't value that anymore, and we get away from this. It's difficult. We've been told our emotions lead us astray. Our emotions stand in the way of making business decisions, being number one, being competitive. Put your feelings in your back pocket so you can go ahead and make the tough decisions. And my experience is, to a growing extent, is that it's the exact opposite. I'm disconnected from reality if I don't have the ability to connect to my own emotions and feelings. And this is what the accountability tree gets to. It gets me connected to myself by allowing me to feel my feelings in the moment, and then listening to the wisdom, and then making a conscious decision, creating the intention, giving me the direction I want to go. And I can't make a good decision if I don't feel these feelings, because that's where the original information is.
Right. One of the things that I found surprising and joyful in our working together a few minutes ago was, as I actually said at the very end, and you gave me a smile, and I could feel that loving energy, and I would assert that part of it is I got myself open to it, but that's part of the value of being in a meeting, so that's not just coming from you as the facilitator, right, but that would be coming from all the other participants who, right, that's the power of the meeting, is we're all rooting for each other.
Well, and not only that, is it recreates the dynamic that supports healing. Everyone in the room is holding space for the person who's going through it. That's community support.
Right.
Right, and that's vital to human beings, right? We're social beings, and we play off each other. We require community support. We can't do this alone. I can't do this in a mirror, despite my valiant attempts.
Well, everything's backwards.
Right. But it's like I come to the realization I can't grow, I can't learn about myself if I'm in isolation. The greatest place to learn about yourself is to be in relationship with another human being, or have friends, be in a family, be in a club, whatever it is. You're going to learn something about yourself in that process, and we're designed to do that.
Exactly.
And that's why it's, like you said, it's very important to come to a meeting, because you get to have that experience. We're not looking for a new process, we're looking for a new experience, and based on that experience, I intuitively understand what you went through. I know the healing, I feel the feeling, and it's like, okay, I like this. I'm connecting with myself through having these emotions.
Right.
And I like the feeling because I'm present and it's real.
Yep.
It's not a conjuring. It's a intuitive knowing, trusting in that feeling, and that's what the accountability tree gets me to. So I can connect with myself, and I ask myself what it is that I want based on what I just experienced, that feeling, the emotion, that experience, and usually it's pretty obvious. I mean, it's not. I want to feel safe. I want to feel accepted. I want to feel valued. I want to be seen. I want to be heard.
Yeah. And I don't want to be judged.
There you go. I don't want to be judged.
Right. Well, that's all we have time for this week. I appreciate your facilitating that, and I hope you got something out of the way the practice actually works. You get to see a sense of what might be of value for you as you work on those kinds of experiences that you may have that baffle you or frighten you or anger you about things that happen to you that you wish weren't happening. At the end of the podcast, there'll be a list of meetings that Dan and I and several of our colleagues facilitate, so you can pick and choose and come and see other people do this work, or perhaps you might want to do this work yourself. And we'll be doing this again. So thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Marty.
And until next time, take care.